so good. God, this show's going to be great.
Let's go.
I think it's going to be a great scene and a good vibe. I can't wait. What is up, everybody? Welcome to a Hump Day edition of the DNVR Nuggets Podcast. Let's go. I know why you think it's going to be a great show. Eric's back.
Eric's
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Guys, we really do have a great one. Why, you might ask? Well, maybe it's because we went to practice today and we saw something out of Nikola Jokic we hadn't seen in months.
His scalp?
Oh, we'll get to that.
Good win. Oh,
You know what we
it's
saw?
going to be a good show.
It's going to be a great show. We are feeling it.
We got a haircut, everybody.
There's also a new CBA rule announced that affects the Denver Nuggets immediately.
There's a new Christian Brown
You guys don't
agenda
even,
rule.
I'm telling you, Christian Brown agenda. You guys will be excited to hear about that one. And then, I don't know if you guys watched the play-in last night.
Sure did.
Unimpressed!
Dude.
And we're going to start hyping ourselves up
Can we
here.
just start with that?
And we are definitely, well, we'll get to it in segment 2. But let me introduce a panel I got over here. You guys, he was half Top Gun over the last week. He's like a butterfly emerging from the cocoon. He is in his summer phase. Top Gun.
Oh.
Brendan Vogt.
Oh, flower shirt season is so back. I'm so happy.
And also the little boy's haircut, man.
Little
Just like
boy's haircut. Thank you for framing it that way, particularly. I'm ready, man. Top Gun mode engaged.
Absolutely. And then over here I got D-Line.
That's right, guys. I'm looking forward to when Brendan recreates the other scene from Top Gun. Just comes in wearing jeans with no shirt.
Ooh,
The volleyball
The
scene.
volleyball.
2 months away. Gotta do some push-ups.
Some real aggressive pats on the ass to your
Dance for no
buddies, to your
reason.
fellas.
Yeah.
But we just played pickleball.
What about what was the name of the football game they
Two-way
played?
football.
Oh yeah.
No, it was
like attack
It was like
football.
jarhead football.
Nobody was like attack football.
Oh my God. Oh, that's right. I remember
With
this
two
now.
balls.
Yeah, you're right. Wow, my God. Over there, hat backwards though, summer vibes, Harrison Wind.
Yeah. So we had Calvin Booth on the show yesterday.
Yeah.
Saw him at practice today.
That's right.
First thing he said was, or I guess the first thing he acknowledged was Vogt's flower shirt.
He's like, that wasn't a bit.
He wasn't like, oh, good to see you guys again. Enjoyed coming on the show. He was like, oh, nice shirt.
Third day in a row.
If you guys missed it, man, yesterday's interview with Calvin Booth, I thought a banger. You really get, like, a lot of people don't know Calvin Booth. You know, like, he's
Correct.
kind of a quiet guy. He hasn't done a lot of interviews or this or that. And, you know, a lot of backstory and a lot of philosophy. And I'm telling you, we've gotten to know him a lot over the last, like, year, 2 years or whatever. I feel like he shared a lot that is, like, core about how he thinks and processes the game and really what it is that motivates him or how he approaches adding players to the roster construction, all that stuff. So if you missed it, don't miss it, guys. Go out and see it. But today's show is going to be about other stuff. Namely, we're going to start with the Denver Nuggets practicing. They had a team dinner last night. First of all, it really is like training camp in a lot of ways in that you take a break, you have a couple days off, then you have a dinner, people speak, and then you come into practice anew.
Yeah.
Walk us through it, Harrison.
Well, they had a team dinner last night. Sounded like a steak dinner for everybody but DeAndre Jordan, who's a vegan.
And Mike Malone, right?
Oh, yeah, and Michael Malone. Yeah, I wonder if they had
You-
a fish option.
Hold up a
Pescatarian.
second. So Jamal Murray was the one that announced that there was a vegetarian option for DeAndre Jordan. Do you think he knows Michael Malone is also a vegetarian?
I don't know.
I don't think he does. Otherwise, he would have said for Mo and Dion and DJ.
That would be
But I'm
insane.
sure he
What?
just didn't see. I bet he just didn't see.
Have you ever
Players,
There's
coaches.
no human being you've ever spent a year of your life with that is a vegetarian that has not announced it to you.
I know. Vegetarians like to make it known they're vegetarian.
Hey, Michael Malone's been here 8 years. I just found out about this a
Well, you
couple
don't-
weeks ago.
You
So
don't travel with
we
the
have a
man.
very different relationship with him than I'm sure Jamal Murray does.
although I will
break
say
a lot of
this,
bread with
how
the-
many
with the man?
How many meals do you think that they've had together though?
A lot.
Countless.
Countless. I bet you could count
Did
them.
they like
Yeah.
before they eat
It's
in the,
got
the
it's got to
room
be
beforehand?
countless. Yeah, a lot.
He's a pescatarian, by the way.
I mean,
Chet's right.
they spent 3 months in a bubble together.
That's true. You're right. That's actually a good insight. You definitely
He's
the
gotta
hot dog
know.
stand.
He's
Yeah.
like,
Got to know.
He's like, why don't you ever have the Mickey burger?
People don't
with
know
the 2
this.
ears.
Malone survived entirely off the fish that they caught in the lake.
Oh, it would be incredible. All right, let's keep it moving.
Sorry.
But yeah, it was a team dinner. Apparently, they watched the games too last night. Like all together, they watched the playing games.
Well,
wonder the
no.
vibe was-
They watched the first one, and then they watched the other one. I thought he said later on they came together and watched the
They watched
last
it
night's
today?
game. Isn't that
Why
what
would
he
they
said?
watch it today?
He just said, well, we're all together for the first game, but then
okay.
we came together after the other one to watch the second one. Either way,
Well, they watched
small detail.
at least one game from last night together. Aaron Gordon called it a great scene and cool vibe.
I love it.
That was his assessment of the team dinner.
Great scene, cool vibe, baby.
I want to be there.
Yeah.
By the way, he said it. I put the tweet out, but he kind of said it exactly the way you would expect. He's like, I'd say it was a great scene and a cool vibe.
How do you think Aaron Gordon would describe this show?
He'd be
Chill.
like, no, he'd be like,
It's chill. Chill show.
cool vibe.
Good vibes.
Yeah, good vibes there, man.
He'd be like, this is kind of a try-hard show with a sort of a broke vibe.
Oh, dude, Aaron Gordon telling me I'm not chill would really break me. That would be really
Don't ask
tough.
him that. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
don't ask
Ben,
him.
don't ask.
Do you want us to tell you?
Yeah, come on, man. I'm chill.
not
right?
ask that
I'm
question
chill.
of Aaron
Come
Gordon.
on, AG.
By
Me and
Aaron Gordon standards?
not chill.
Yeah. But the vibe at practice today felt like a training camp practice, felt like a first day of the season practice. Everybody was in a good mood. You know, I'll get into the health of the roster in a second, but we walked in, the media walked in, they were doing shooting drills. There was a high level of energy. Everybody was excited. Just great vibes today, I thought. Like, that was my first impression walking in there. And it also seems like it was a hard practice. Like, the Nuggets did a bunch of 5-on-5 today. Michael Malone said, look, like, we can't be worried about injuries anymore. We got to play. We can't just take a week off and then all of a sudden play against a team that had just played 2 games in the play-in. So they're ramping it up right now. So that was cool to hear.
100%. And the energy, I mean, this is what I was going to get to with Jokic today, is that what had we not seen from Jokic over the last month and a half, 2 months? A smile. In a great spirits today, man. Like the whole, it really did feel like it felt like the team has come up for air. Like they were just holding their breath the last month of like, gosh dang it, we still have 8 more games. And it felt like today it was like, okay, finally, we're here.
That shooting contest they did at the end, it's perfect. It's like a perfect way to boost morale at the end. They get so into it.
And they were into
Jokic.
it.
Yeah.
They're not always into it. Sometimes, like, honestly, Mitts, they always do shooting tournament or things. And sometimes you'll go in and it's like, you'll see half the guys over there chewing on their shirt or just kind of doing this
during
or
the
that.
season, for sure. For sure.
They were into it today.
But it's like, if you're still thinking about the last month, if you're still thinking about the last couple weeks and are hung up on it, I'll let you know that the team is not.
at all.
Like, they are 100% past that.
Yeah.
They're not even thinking about what's happened the last couple of weeks. That's way gone. They've,
Hell yes.
I don't want to use one metaphor, but they've turned the page. I'll say that.
They've turned the page. We'll get to the other
Yeah.
metaphor later.
Yeah. But like I said, they did a bunch of 5-on-5 today. Michael Malone said tomorrow they're going to start planning for one of the teams that they'll play. So after tonight's game,
Vibe alert. Vibe alert. The vibes are too hot.
Sirens on
Sirens
cold
on
Fox,
Cold
baby.
Fox, boys.
so after tonight's play-in, there will be 2 potential teams that the Nuggets will play. And at tomorrow's practice, they'll start game planning for both those teams, it sounds like.
Yeah. Which, depending on which teams it is, could be hard to do. Like, some of these teams are kind of a little different, you know, in their approach.
You mean one of them has 2 7-footers? That
Yeah. Yeah. There's some differences for sure.
Yeah. And
By the way, though, the thing about playing 5-on-5, like, and Malone saying we're not worried about injuries anymore. I mean, they play coy, but they basically were trying their goal number 1, 2, and 3 was to avoid injuries over the last month. But it is interesting to me that he is not trying to avoid injuries this week.
Yeah.
Meaning, I mean, you have to take a chance, right? You understand that there's a risk there, but they're not doing like non-contact 5-on-5. It's like, no, we're playing it because we have to be ready and we're trying to go at game speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Gordon was talking about flipping the switch. This might have been the quote of the day. He said, quote, "I don't think you can turn it off to on, but I think that when it is on, you can turn it up." What do you think about that one, D-Line? Let that marinate for a second.
Switch doesn't turn up. This is the dial from Spinal Tap. Off or on, that's the switch.
Yeah.
But I guess that he's saying that there's a dimmer and they dimmed it down, so they're slowly turning it up. Listen, I think it's true. We saw them like give a really earnest effort against who was it when they played in the first half? Was that the Jazz? No, it was the just last week where they like actually tried for a half and they were like terrible and then they were good.
The Jazz game.
The
It was
Jazz, yeah, the Jazz.
Yeah, like I think that's kind of what it is. Like they couldn't just turn it on, but they could like get it up and then start to turn it up and turn it up. I'm with it. I think it's a chill vibe.
Here's what I would say about it. it's a funny example of when it makes logical sense what he's saying. It just doesn't fit the metaphor.
It's a horrible metaphor.
Yeah, like the metaphor at a certain
metaphor,
point,
yeah.
it's a mixed metaphor that doesn't quite work, and you're like, hold on, no switches.
It's an amazing quote.
No switches
but you can
are
turn
always
it,
on.
You can turn it more up.
Well, if it's a dial, if it's a dimmer, you dim it down.
Yeah.
Dim it
Yeah,
up.
like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like you just got to be on 1.
I'm trying to get to 11, man.
AG was awesome today, man.
Mr. Nugget.
Mr. Nugget was. I
Mr.
mean, just
Nugget.
saying, he was like a chill vibe today.
Aaron Gordon said he's going to continue to be the glue of the team. That's
Hell
his
yeah.
mindset
Hell yeah,
heading
dude.
into the playoffs. Let's talk about the health of the roster. This was definitely one of the takeaways today. Nikola Jokic, Mike Malone said, physically, mentally, emotionally, he's in a really good place. That was good to hear. And Aaron Gordon said he's feeling really healthy as well, like way healthier than he's felt at any point, like during the last couple of months. He said, every time I took a breath, he's talking about how he was feeling around the All-Star break. He said, every time I took a breath, my rib was popping out of place. Not great,
Not great.
but he's healthy now, he says.
Great.
And then,
I mean, honestly, this is one of the themes of today's practice for me. The team took them last month off. I mean, they just did. But I think they all feel like it was worth it. I just feel like that was kind of the vibe of like, hey, man, we're healthy, we're ready,
Yeah.
we're rested, we're good. And it wasn't defensive, but this was the first time even Malone kind of referenced like, yeah, look, I mean, it is what it is. But I just feel like everybody's kind of like good with it.
yeah, everybody's healthy, it seems like, except for Jamal Murray, who's still a little banged up. The right thumb has been bothering him. He says it was a little sore after practice today. He's going to have it taped during games. He feels it when he catches the ball, when he shoots the ball, and then Michael Malone said, I don't think it's going to get any better, or I don't think it's going to be great at any point. So this is going to be something that, just has to get managed. I do have to say, though, it doesn't seem like it's affected Jamal Murray a lot recently. Like, he's shooting the ball well.
No rap today as well, Harrison. That rap he's had featured.
Yeah. I think you'll see it in games, though.
Yeah.
But, again, I just think that's going to be something that's present during the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
What else you got?
And then the final note I've got here, there's a lot of talk about the pressure that the Nuggets are facing, number 1 seed.
Oh, first of all, when you mentioned that, there was 3 times the amount of people there today, which is always a thing. I almost forgot. Walking into Ball Arena, I wasn't thinking about, oh, that's right, everyone's here today. And so you get a lot of some of these like...
Start over. Hey, do you think Nikola wants the MVP?
He's going to talk tomorrow and guaranteed to come up. Guaranteed to
Oh,
come
man, we should put a pool together on who's going to ask it.
We should just ask it first.
up. No way. No
First
chance.
question, Nikola.
Jesus.
A lot of conversation this year about the MVP. Are
It
you?
seems louder than ever, the noise.
Yeah.
Jokic, are you a racist?
Does it mean something to you to get that MVP to be?
Would this one mean more?
Yeah. Would it mean more? I'm not saying whose impression. I
Would
was
you
doing
be
there. I'm not saying-
comfortable being on the
It was a
same
spot on.
level as
I'm just saying,
Larry
it was a
Bird?
Spot on impression. All right, go for it.
Pressure. Michael Malone, he was very adamant. He kind of clapped back at a question about the pressure that he might be facing, that the Nuggets might be facing. And he said, look, nobody in the media is going to put any pressure on us or me. It's just all about us. It's all about the pressure that we put on ourselves and just the expectations that we have. And that was another theme of today. Like, I even asked Aaron Gordon, like, is there a team that you want to play in the first round? And I wasn't expecting him to give me a team, maybe if he wanted to, but he just kind of said, nah, it's just about us. Like, the Nuggets' biggest opponent, their toughest opponent, especially in the first round, is going to be themselves.
Strong agree.
And that's just kind of the vibe I get. They know that's the case. And yeah, that's about it.
Alrighty. I mean, overall, though, I did feel like this was just a good first day of practice. It just really did feel like a first day of school vibe to it, which is kind of funny to think since it's really like almost at the end of school. But
It was like the first week of practice of the season.
It really
has
was.
that same vibe. Yeah.
It felt more like training camp and different things like that than anything.
I gotta say, man, like I feel a real shift in
Yes,
energy. Like
me
they
too.
really feel like getting through the season really felt like
The
something.
energy is about to shift.
It really
Did
is,
you
man.
turn the switch up?
I turned it off, on again. I
Well, you
unplugged
can't
it.
do that. You
Oh.
can't do that.
Yeah, you can't turn it
It's
off.
got to
I
be
blew
on,
it, whatever. But
and then you just turn it up.
I'm ready to turn it up. But I mean, like truly, like I am at this point, like it feels like the season's over. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
versus it just being a continuation going into the playoffs. It feels like a very different thing. Like I myself feel unburdened.
Yeah.
You know? Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
by my favorite team.
right. And just a new focus and everything else. And look, man, here's the thing. This is how the ebbs and flows of a regular season. Usually there's a lot of new guys, so you're working through new personalities and everything else, and there's just like at least some newness, but some staleness. The Nuggets have had a lot of continuity, especially with their coach and star players and this or that. There's not, even though there's new pieces like KCP, I mean, he's a seamless fit. That took a week, and like, okay, now we're over that hurdle. There just hasn't been that many things. So I think that this year has been among the most monotonous for the Denver Nuggets. I mean, Yoke's done this 8 years. We've talked about it before, but he's done this 8 times now. He's gone through a regular season with the same coach in the same building with the same ebbs and flows of it. And I do think there's a sense of boredom that has been maybe the biggest factor. And we keep talking about freshness and this or that. I honestly just think it's boredom. But guess what? It's not boring anymore. And that's what I sensed in the building today. It was like, finally, we're to the fun part.
Oh, yeah.
And the team is just kind of ready for it.
They've been playing exhibition games.
They really have.
We said that. We said Nikola Jokic, the world's worst exhibition game player. Yeah. If you're curious
really
about that,
be.
go ahead and watch that All-Star game.
It's so true,
like,
man.
He played the last half of the season like he played in the All-Star game.
You know what I wish, though? Because when Yoke feels this way, he kind of mopes. When Larry Bird felt this way, he shot left-handed.
He just effed around.
I want Yoke to get... I would much rather Yoke spent the last month throwing...
Just dicking around.
The crazy 8 turnovers a game because he can't stop.
He was getting 8 turnovers a game anyway.
He was kind of doing that.
Yeah, but they weren't fun. They were just
know.
like, Ray, I wish instead he was doing like
I'm with
4
you.
Sambor shuffles a game. Just
The
to be
end
like,
of
what
his
if
career.
I only shot Sambor
The end of his
shuffles?
career is going to be hilarious.
Or like he treats it like...
If they win a championship this year, his next regular season will be legendary.
Or he just treats it like those dunk guys that like only do dunk. Who won the dunk contest? I can't even remember already.
Mac McClung.
Mac McClung, like Mac McClung,
was me.
like practices ridiculous dunks in the gym. Like I want Jokic to do that with his passes. Like,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
he's like, oh, what if I went in between the legs, behind the like,
Right. I see Tony right in the chat saying the Nuggets are getting zero respect from the national media. I'm
What?
telling you, it's not just them. Yeah, I know. It's not,
Tony, where'd you get that from?
yeah. What? Shocked to find this out.
Source?
But also, man, I'm telling you, I think there really is a lack of respect from other players and teams as well. And that's the part to me that I think the team is sort of ready for. It's like, you know what? I've long said Jokic teams and Nuggets teams as well, they need to be the underdog. And I feel like the Nuggets are in that sweet spot of being the 1-seed underdogs. It's
so
actually kind of perfect.
It's so bizarre what they did with this number. I mean, they have no idea how to be a front runner. No clue.
They're
like
so uncomfortable with
They were so far ahead. They were like, what do we do? They like,
Wait, this is what we're supposed to be
But
doing?
teams going
What?
from nothing to front runner is hard. I mean, the Phoenix Suns went from nothing to front runner and then got won 2 games in the finals and got swept after that.
Yeah, because they didn't like go through it appropriately. The Nuggets have no idea how to be front runners.
But fortunately for them, unfortunately for us for the last month, but fortunately for them, they found out a way not to be. Just look terrible, and no one will treat you like you're in the front.
They cracked the code.
They cracked that
Congratulations.
code, baby. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, let's get to the good part here, which is last night's games. Laughable. Let's laugh.
Guys, Fubo TV, if you want to watch the Nuggets, if you want to watch the Avs, they got 140 plus live channels as well. Sports, shows, movies, and news. Stream live TV from any device. FuboTV.com/DNVR. You have to go to that link, or you can hit that QR code right there on the screen. FuboTV.com/DNVR. 140 channels, sports, shows, movies, and news. You can sign up right now, start watching immediately. You can start watching right after this show. No contract, no cable, no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. You also get 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge, so you get that as well. Watch your local teams while traveling. You can watch the Nuggets, the Avs on Altitude Sports with Fubo TV. Go to www.FuboTV.com/DNVR. FuboTV.com/DNVR. Sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. So you can get even more with that.
The greatest thing that they don't even mention that I have found is with that cloud storage, that it will automatically record things for you that it can tell that you like. So I
nice
will go
little
in.
AI action.
Yeah, man. So I like go in. I'm like, oh, dope. The Nuggets game was recorded. Like I'm gonna watch.
Nice.
I'm gonna rewatch it. That's awesome.
Nice.
You know,
That's
cool.
great. Also, Shady Rays. Take on the sun with gear that's built to last with Shady Rays. Shady Rays has you covered for the warm weather ahead. How about warm weather? How about the weather in Denver,
What a
Colorado
treat.
today, boys?
What a treat.
Oh, doctor.
Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company. They offer a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair that you've probably worn out there. They're also durable. They're not going to break out you, or they're not going to break on you. They've got sunglasses for every type of occasion, the sun, the slopes, whatever you need. If you don't love your Shady Rays, you can actually exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days, so no risk when you're shopping. This is a exclusive DNVR deal. Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com, use the code DNVR for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Shadyrays.com, use the code DNVR.
Let's go.
All right, back here, segment 2. So last night was our first play-in games. We saw an East Conference one and a Western Conference one. I don't have a ton of notes on the Eastern Conference game, other than I thought Miami would be.
We don't need to talk about it.
I thought Miami would be, but Miami. You talk about being bad, man. That Eastern. Everybody keeps talking about the West.
Oh,
is
get
so
Harrison.
weak.
Get Harrison.
The
on
West
ISO
is
cam.
so weak, man. The East. These first rounds are going to be a joke, man. 3 of the 4 first round series should be an absolute
Miami.
laugher. Miami's terrible.
Dude, they're like the all retirement team. Like it's all these guys that are like, it's like Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry,
yeah.
and
It's
like
very
all
Florida
these.
of them.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
what I was. Wait, that was my joke. I was explaining my joke, and that was it.
That's good though.
I know.
Son of a biscuit.
Dude, you should have
man.
made it as good as I did. I don't know.
I said it's the perfect team for that city.
It was taking a long time
Son
to get
of
to
a
the
bitch.
point. He beat you to it. I don't know what to tell you.
Sometimes you need a co-pilot.
Sucks.
But we got into the other game. And to set the table real quick, Jaden McDaniels, broken hand. Rudy Gobert, suspended by the team, by the way, in one of the weirdest tweets Woj has ever put out.
The best.
One sentence. That
The
was
best
like
one.
280.
He was called a bitch by his teammate repeatedly.
Yeah, that's such a funny one.
Not
Repeatedly.
once, not twice.
The greatest part is that is now part of the official record of that
yeah.
incident. Like back in the day, it was like, oh, MJ and Pippen really got into a tussle on the sideline. It wasn't like Michael told.
Quote, you bitch. Times
true.
3.
But to give you guys a sense of this game, Minnesota was up very nice. You know, they were dominating
15.
this game. 15-point lead in the third quarter, right?
Yes.
They had broken it open. And then a few things happened. I don't know how you all feel about this, but a number of things happened. One of them was Karl Anthony Towns getting into foul trouble. Now, I'm not trying to be the conspiracy theorist here. I actually think his fouls were all bad fouls. Like, he had some really dumb decisions. But as a team, the Lakers got a lot of fouls in that second half. In fact, I think they outshot them 13-3 from the foul line in the second half.
You know what the 3 foul shots were, though.
What were they?
The 3-point
Oh,
shot.
at the
that
very end, it was
fouled.
13-0 to the
Yeah.
final 0.1 second. My God, that's hilarious. But also, the Timberwolves shot a bunch of jumpers, man. They played so bad. But Towns in this game was a plus 18. Karl Anthony Towns played 41 plus minutes and was a plus 18. And they still lost because he got into foul trouble and had to exit the game. Nonetheless, my big takeaway from watching this game, you kept thinking the intensity is going to elevate. It did not. All that happened was the execution plummeted from both teams.
Yeah, the comedy elevated.
The comedy elevated. To me, that game was so you watch this and you go, these teams shouldn't be concerning in any way.
Dude, the whole timeline was laughing. The whole
Right.
everyone logged on to have the same reaction. That was some of the worst, and it ended up being a good game, as in entertaining in terms of the result was up in the air.
As in close with the score.
Thank you, Harrison. That's what I'm trying to say. The crunch time execution was some of the worst I've ever seen, and there was a level of, now it's the one game plan, which is different than a series, but there was a level of desperation, and not in a good way, behind everything either team was doing offensively. And it wasn't like either defense was great. It was just so sloppy.
Right. So that was my big takeaway, is just that these teams, man, let's start with the Lakers. LeBron James, I know Denver probably won't see him, but LeBron James clearly is not 100%. Like that. And also he's old. Like LeBron
I think he is 100%.
No, there's no way.
What he has.
I don't think so.
I think his foot is hurting him, actually. I do think it's
He's had games this
exaggerated.
year. He's had games. Here's my thing I've been saying about LeBron since the bubble, and it might even include the bubble year. LeBron can be the best player on the court in any given game. And he might be able to be the best player in any given series. Might. I'm not so sure about. I'm not very confident about that. There's no way he can be in an entire playoffs, an entire season, or even in like 2 series in a row. If I give him 1 series, I'm not even sure about. But 2 or 3, there's no way. And last night, that was I've watched LeBron his whole career. That was a classic game that LeBron of 2018, not even just 5 years ago, wins that one by himself.
No question.
In the second half, dominates it. Instead, he had so many bad turnovers.
The turnovers were bizarre. Not being able to get to his spot or his shot because of his age or his foot or whatever, but it was
decision making.
He's one of the smartest players that's ever played the game. Some of those passes were horrendous.
And even Anthony Davis, who is in his prime and has been pretty good over the last little bit, even he was like not that impactful. I mean, look, he was a +9 in his minutes in 43 minutes. He was definitely impactful relative to the game. But it wasn't this thing where I'm watching him going like, my God, that guy just does everything. There's no way Towns was scoring on him. Like they were still getting stuff that they wanted in that game. And then offensively, the Lakers were horrible offensively. So I just look at that and I look at the Lakers and I go, you know what? I'm picking Memphis. I don't even like Memphis. That's the most annoying series. But I look at that and I go, the Lakers just are. There's no way the Nuggets are meeting the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I know it's crazy to count anybody out.
No, it's not. I mean, my big takeaway was both those teams are incredibly mediocre. And that's what they've been for most of this season. So that shouldn't be a surprise. And if the Nuggets were to play either of those teams, they should probably sweep them. Like, that's not what would happen.
Yeah, sweep
but
is tough.
The Nuggets are such a better team than those teams. They should sweep them.
The other thing is they know who they are, Harrison, and this is a big piece of it. Is watching those teams, you know who LeBron is, you know Anthony Davis, but there was just a lot of, what is Rui doing right now? What's he supposed to be doing? He just kind of stands there. And then they don't know who they are in any way.
And that is an advantage the Nuggets have, and
100%.
a reason they're being severely underrated by everybody heading into the playoffs is that the Nuggets, they're actually a team. Like, they actually have this thing called chemistry and culture and just an understanding of how to play with one another that a lot of teams in the West don't have, that those two teams last night definitely don't have. And I think that's a reason why the Nuggets are going to take a lot of people by surprise and just lean on those things to do it. But that those two teams last night are nothing.
What I took away from it was that the theory we had about the Lakers just rising in the second half of the season when half the teams didn't care anymore and all they did was sign a bunch of tryhards that just were playing harder than everybody, and then you see what it looks like when tryhards get into a clutch situation and they're not clutch players. Austin Reeves, not a clutch player. Somehow Dennis Schroeder hit like the coldest shot of the year.
I was, honest to God, floored that he hit that.
Floored.
I was so surprised.
There's
It was the game winner.
Dude, there's like so many players. You're like, you know, we've had conversations with people that count out various teams because of their youth and inexperience, and they don't think that they have playoff players on their team. That's what that looks like, man. Those are not playoff players. Like the Lakers don't. I was like, when I thought they were going to lose by 15, I was like, just watch. LeBron's going to hurt his foot. He's going to be like, there's no point in seeing this through. We clearly don't have a good enough squad to, like, even if we get out of this, and I hope he should still be thinking this, like, we are nowhere near good enough to make a run.
Right. Yeah. I mean, LeBron.
Yes. Now it's going to count against his playoff record.
If they would have lost that game, like, especially he gets the assist at the end and Schroeder hits it, and then they foul at the end to give Mike Conley 3 free throws. If they would have lost in overtime, I honestly think LeBron shows up in a boot.
That's what I mean. Like,
and just doesn't play in the second play-in game.
Yeah, because he's like, listen, we're going nowhere. I'm not having this count against my playoff record. Now it's going to.
Now it's going to, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, it's going to 4 losses against it. It's coming up.
Let's talk about the other side, though. Anthony Edwards. Also,
dude,
I mean, that was a disaster class that he put on, man. That was a horrible one. He finished the game 3 of 17. I think he made his last 2 shots like layups in garbage time.
Yeah,
but he had a horror. I think he was 1 on was he 1 of 11 at a certain point, 1 of 12, something like that, maybe even 1 of 13. He was having such a disaster night, and it's one of those things where he has looked like a superstar ready to at moments this season. But that is the play. Everybody says this about Jokic for some reason. Like, well, the playoffs will tell the truth about this or that. It's like,
the playoffs have told the truth
a
already
lot,
with
man.
Jokic.
Jokic dominates. He scores really well. But last night, Anthony Edwards was not up for it. And Karl Anthony Towns was incredible last night.
Well, for half.
3 quarters. For 3 quarters.
Until he turned into Karl Anthony Towns again.
But this is my whole point, is that there's just such a difference in the NBA between are you talented and skilled and can do all these things versus do you know what it takes to win? And last night, I don't mean to rag on him, but last night watching that was such a classic Towns performance.
Of course,
so good until the end, and then so bad.
That dude, this is why they got Rudy Gobert. Karl Anthony Towns always gets in foul trouble. You always lose.
He loses his head, man.
And then you
because
always
the fouls
lose your
were dumb.
Yes, but you always lose your interior defense at the end of the game when you actually need it. So they're like, we got to get somebody that can actually defend when Karl Anthony Towns gets out of rhythm and out of control.
Did you hear what he said about the possession where he had Austin Reeves on him and he took the step back jumper that he bricked?
What did he say?
He was overthinking having 5 fouls. He was afraid if he drove, he was going to get.
Which is a real thing, man. Like, honestly, this was, again, I think his fouls last night were dumb. I do think there was some fouls that were there was a stretch of fouls in that, like, whenever the Lakers really pulled up, there was a stretch of them that I was just, Anthony Davis got an and one where I was like, you gotta be kidding me here.
I almost lost it.
But at the same time, I look at this if I'm Towns and I go, yeah, but at least 2 or 3 of those fouls were like, you did not need to do anything close to what you did to draw those.
When Nikola Jokic says, I've never won anything, but I think I know the mindset and I think I have the mentality to win. Like, Karl Towns does not have that mentality or mindset. Like, he loses his cool continuously when it gets into those situations. And I mean, that's just what separates Nikola Jokic from so many guys in this league.
It's
like,
dude,
he mentally, he's just on a level that a lot of people just can't get to, and that they've never gotten to that level before.
Yeah, like the wildest thing is that somehow the pandemic and the bubble like erased people's memories about you. People have the strangest takes about Jokic in his performance in the playoffs. Like, Jokic is a monster. A monster in the playoffs. Every time he's been an absolute monster. They went to the Western Conference Finals. I have come to realize the bubble truly did not exist. People pretend that never happened. It's like, and then, obviously everybody here knows why it went poorly. Like, I was looking at our branding for the playoffs. This year we're calling it step up time. And in years past we called it, like last year, we called it against all odds.
Right, yeah.
They had no chance.
Yeah, against all odds. Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah. Like, we're like, yeah, everyone's hurt. Like, we're going to go for it, but like, whatever.
But now it's time to step up.
Now it's step up time, baby.
It's like, hey, we've been waiting for this for years, and now it's time to actually step up and get there. But I will say, one other interesting wrinkle. They lost this game, the Timberwolves did, because Towns got in foul trouble and they had to go small against Anthony Davis and the Lakers. Anthony Davis hates to go play center or whatever, but those staggered lineups, that's where he is. And they had to throw out like just a bunch of forwards, that to try to guard him, including Kyle Anderson guarding Anthony Davis. And they just hemorrhaged points during that stretch. Maybe the game would have all been different. Gobert has not been good for them, and there's clearly a disconnect there. But if you just look at that fourth quarter and go, well, Towns is going to sit for 6 minutes, and we have to play Kyle Anderson.
Sure.
They totally could have used a second center last night.
Sure.
And even just Naz Reid, who's not a stopper, I say that admittedly.
At least make him work, though.
But he's a center or a big, and they were down both of those guys, and they were hurting because of that.
But the thing is, though, Towns was an absolute beast in the first half.
Yeah.
Like, Karl Towns looked like the best player in the league in that first half.
Yes. Right.
And the reason he did was because Rudy Gobert was not on the floor.
Yeah.
And the entire court was open, and they were playing 5 out, and he was just getting to the middle of the floor every time and doing his thing. Like, he wouldn't have been doing that with Rudy Gobert.
No, it's true.
And that's the question Minnesota has been facing all season, and might face going forward.
I hope they don't figure this out if we meet them, but I mean, truly, like, they need to be on the floor at different times.
Well, do you think there is something too? I mean, now tonight you got Oklahoma City and New Orleans. We'll see who wins that one. But whoever Minnesota plays, next game they'll probably have Gobert.
They should stagger.
But is it going to be a good or bad thing, do you think, for the Timberwolves to bring him? Like, just because it's so weird to do that.
I understand that it could absolutely have an adverse effect on the offense. Totally. I think ultimately you want him there because last night's a great example, right? You just push comes to shove. You'd rather have that option than not, especially because of what a bloated like asset he is on that roster. You know, it's a lot of money and stuff wrapped up in him. If he's not playing, there's no way you're at your best. I just think so. I do think they need him, but maybe with no Naz Reid, maybe they should get extremely aggressive with the stagger.
Yeah,
and just make sure one of those guys are on the floor.
We love a good stagger.
We love a convo about a stagger.
Yeah, we love talking stagger.
Let's take a second. Let's take a second break here because I have a quick take on the other side. Minnesota still in play for Denver. On the other,
not in play. I told you
it's going to happen. Oh, you had a
I
premonition.
told you I had a vision that we're playing Minnesota.
Wow, that's so crazy how you had this. So we're going to talk about that on the other side.
Watch what happens.
You have a 50-50 chance, though, so it's pretty
It was
good.
like a 60% chance too.
I told that before this last whatever.
Are you?
Minnesota should
let me
have
ask
won
you
that game
a serious
last
question
night.
because
They
you're
blew
indignant
it.
right now.
Well, I'm not
Are you
really
saying that
indignant.
your vision you fully believed? You're like, hey, I saw it.
Yeah,
I
I
had
announced
this.
to everybody on that we were going to get Minnesota.
Yeah, I know, but we announced a lot of things. I'm saying, was that one that you were like, no, I've had a real vision?
I had a vision.
Okay.
I need
see
to know
what
your. I
happens.
need to know your other visions.
Yeah, do you have a
now.
better vision? Give me another vision. Like
Most visions I have are for like T-shirts and stuff.
He's like, I had a vision for a shirt. There it is. I made it.
Or like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be like, oh no, the Suns are going to trade for Kevin Durant, and then they do.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's take a break. On the other side,
Got to make a shirt about
let's
it.
talk about the matchup with the Timberwolves, though, and just what we saw from it and how you feel about it.
Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. Go to breckbrew.com. Check out the Breck Brew beer locator that will tell you where to get Breckenridge Brewery wherever you are. Colorado, Texas, Midwest, wherever you are, you can get Breck Brew. Check out the Breck Brew beer locator. They got a beer for any occasion, and there's no better way to watch a game than with having some Breckenridge Brewery. They've been in business for 32 years. Try out some of their favorites and some of our favorites. The Mile High City Golden Ale. See it right there on the screen.
Delicious.
Nuggets can with the Nuggets logo on it in that box. The Avalanche Amber. Hey, it's still Av season. The
It's
Vanilla
very
Porter
much.
Jr., the Funslinger, the Good Company Hard Seltzers. Check out their beer locator at breckbrew.com to find Breckenridge Brewery near you. Also at Ivy Nutrition, if you go to their Wash Park location, corner of Alameda and Downing, you have to go to that location. It's the only location you can use this offer at. But you mentioned DNVR, get 50% off your first IV nutritional drip. Give them a call, 720-259-4404 for more information. Stop by their Wash Park location. It's got to be that location, corner of Alameda and Downing. If you mention DNVR, you get 50% off your first IV nutritional drip. IV Nutrition is great. We've all been there. We all had a great time, great experience there. They have a lot of different offerings other than just, the traditional drip. They've got wellness blood testing and consultations, intermuscular injections with vitamin formulas. They got the Express lunch break drip, tons of stuff. So check them out. Check out their Wash Park location. Mention DNVR. Get 50% off your first IV nutritional drip.
There you go. All right. So now you look at this and you go, Minnesota, if they match up, I still think there are weird like X factor things there. Just, Malone versus Finch, and you got the Conley thing that maybe becomes a storyline. I do think that Towns scores on Jokic. Jokic always, I think gets the better of him in the end in the games at least that matter. And then you have the whole Denver's lost to Minnesota a lot over the last 2 years for whatever reason. So I do look at that one and say it's like there are some things to think about, but at the same time, man, we look at the talent, especially with how banged up they've been. You look at the talent and you go, Denver, if they lost a series against Minnesota, it would be a disaster on epic proportions. But
Sure.
My confidence level is so high in that series.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Well, after, what's his name broke his hand?
Jaden
Jaden
McDaniels.
McDaniels broke his hand. That to me was the breaking point for that team. Like, I think that they they spent a lot of their season not with all of their available players. Karl Anthony Towns wasn't with the team for most of the year, so it's a little bit difficult to understand like how good they can all be together. They had like a couple stretches where they were decent, but I don't think that they are deep enough to be able to lose a player like that and be able to overcome it. I mean, we've seen what that looks like. You lose an impact player going into the playoffs, and you're already like on the margins, talent wise. Like, they do make me nervous, truth be told, like just because we have seen them, like we've seen Anthony Edwards just go ballistic against the Nuggets before and just set a record for threes. We've seen them beat us in weird ways that don't even necessarily go along with how they even normally play. But I know that they have players. It's just like watching last night, any nervousness I felt about playing either one of those teams, I was like, oh my God, like what a joke.
That's why I said they should sweep them. Like they should. They'll probably win in 5. Even 6 would be kind of weird, but they should have no problem with them.
What struck me most watching that game was for a team that's really had to be basically in playoff mode and win mode and try hard mode for a while, and they were missing a lot of key guys, but they seem to have such a little idea of who they are, want to be, and should be in the fourth quarter.
My God.
And there were other factors as well, but the way they lost control over that game is what you expect of teams that don't have a lot of playoff experience.
Yeah.
I like the Nuggets Spurs series where the Nuggets were the better team by a lot, but that was always going to be a close series because Denver was still, they would get too tight. What do we do? This team, even with all the new parts, they know who they are in those moments better than any team except for Golden State, Milwaukee, Boston, but maybe Boston too. They're way up there.
Honestly, Denver just hasn't played like their identity, but I think they know what their identity is.
They know what it is, and I think that would be my firm. I could see Minnesota staying close with them in a handful of games, and then Denver's just the better team in crunch time.
No question about it. If we move to the next game tonight, Oklahoma City and New Orleans, do you expect, Harrison, that to look like the last night's game? Do you and just in that? One thing I keep wondering is, does Minnesota look a lot better on Friday? Was this a first game of the playoff vibe where just everybody was a little caught off guard? And I have to give you credit, D-Line. One of your theories about the Lakers are just playing hard at the end of the season, I think proved last night because their trying hard didn't matter. They just looked like
their defense did not look like the best in the league since the All-Star break.
Dude, the way that
they did have a great defensive rating, though.
I know, but it's fake. Like that's what we talked about yesterday.
It is totally fake. Man, that Austin Reeves, that bruise he got on the front of his arm, which is a wound of aggression, versus Nikola Jokic, who has defensive wounds on the back of his arm.
That's the James Harden bruise.
Because he just
that's a Harden. That's called getting a Harden.
But Harden is sneaky. He swipe and try and trick you. Austin Reeves just oh, you're there, and just smashes into you over and over. It's like, come on, bro.
Yeah. But tonight, do you expect OKC New Orleans to be as sloppy of a game?
No, I bet it will be a better game. Those two teams last night they seemed so desperate.
Yeah.
Like they were just living and dying on every possession, it felt like. I don't expect this game to be as intense as that was, just from that perspective.
We kind of have a nice superstar matchup here between Ingram and Shea. Yeah. I don't think they'll guard each other too well, but what are you looking for tonight, D-Line, in this matchup?
I'm curious about how serious Oklahoma City is. I'm also curious about, the Pelicans I think are a good team. They just obviously is there any hope Zion's coming back at any point?
No, he's
out, right? So this is actually interesting because Zion came out with a quote just not too long ago. Was it yesterday or the day before? Yesterday, where he said, it's actually not physical. Physically, I could go right now. It's mental. And people are beating him up over this. Larry Nance came out today and kind of defended him. I will say, to me, this is what happened to Jamal last year.
It's exactly what happened.
And nobody wanted to say it, and Jamal didn't come out and say it. And so all it led to was speculation. But last year, Jamal was cleared. He was healthy. He just mentally, needed more time to ramp up. Zion is essentially saying the same thing, and I'm kind of in the middle on this one. I don't want to bag on him because he's being honest. And I hate when athletes say something and then we bag on them and then they just never say anything honest again. But there is this thing of how much are you supposed to play through the mental aspect of sports?
Well, there's another side of it too, where I think part of the mental aspect is he's being honest about how limited he probably would be. And Harrison and I
except for he said the exact opposite. He said physically, I know I could go out there and dominate.
Yeah, Yeah, I don't know. He's in really bad shape right now. Harrison,
that
I saw
part,
him in
yeah.
person recently, and I just can't fathom him coming out and being in top shape physically.
The worry you have when you're not all the way there mentally, and I'm guessing this is what Jamal was dealing with last year, is that you actually open yourself up to risking injuries when like you're battling that mentally.
Zion hasn't played.
What's funny about
What's
that?
funny is like you don't want to risk injury. He's never played more than like 3 weeks in a row in his
Right,
entire
but like, what
career.
if he came back and
It's just like he's always going to be.
right? But what if he came back and
Sure.
ruptured his other hamstring because he's thinking about one of them?
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm just
That-
I'm
that's
laughing
what
at
it
the
is.
absurdity of. Will he ever be in a position where he's not
don't
a
know.
giant injury risk? Who knows? Anyway, it doesn't sound like he's going to play even in the
So
playoffs.
I like the Pelicans, but I don't like them without having Zion in tow. So I'm interested to just kind of see like, I mean, I think Minnesota will beat for sure the Pelicans. They just beat them like a couple days before. It's
Yeah, but some things changed. I mean, they beat
Well,
him
they won't have Jaden. They beat them during
that game.
That's
which is
crazy.
even crazier if you think about that. Like they were able to overcome the Pelicans having that much internal combustion.
They have a great coach, though. There is something to like, the Nuggets beat Utah with the 7. But if they had to play them again, they probably would get smacked because
Yeah.
it's like, all right, they only have 7 guys. Let's adjust.
Yeah.
We're going to force the ball into this guy's hands. But nonetheless, your point still stands. I think it would be a great game if that's what it was. It would kind of be fun to have there'd be something fun to them playing each other twice in 5 days with everything at stake both times. I think that would make for a fun little wrinkle here. And I don't know. I'm with you though. I do think New Orleans is the hardest team left standing. I still think there's no excuses. Denver should smack them. But I do look at it. And by the way, Jose Alvarado maybe coming back.
Yeah, did that make them the toughest team left standing?
Maybe. At some
Especially
point,
in a
you're looking
Nuggets
for one
matchup?
other guy. You're like, is there anything that makes any of these teams dangerous?
Yeah.
But we'll see. Anyway, that'll be tonight. I'll be rooting for Minnesota, I guess. Or
Oklahoma City.
Tonight I'll be rooting for Oklahoma City. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, a new CBA deal. You guys haven't even thought about this? Pertains to the Denver Nuggets. Pertains to Bruce Brown. And I'm going to go ahead and call it the Jeremy
Brucey
Grant.
B?
I'm going to call it the Jeremy Grant rule.
Oh, the Mr. Nugget exception.
What?
I don't know.
Just felt good.
It felt good off the tips.
The American Raptors, they play at Infinity Park. Professional rugby has returned to Rugby Town, USA. As your hometown, American Raptors have begun their 6-match homestand against the 6 South American rugby teams. So what I need you guys to do, go to AmericanRaptors.com. Purchase tickets for games. Just $10 per ticket. Children 12 and under are free. If you can't make it, watch all of the American Raptors matches live on ESPN+. You can buy tickets again for $10. Children 12 and under are free. The American Raptors, they play at Infinity Park. If you want to keep up to date on all our rugby content, rugby throughout the entire country, check out the DNVR Rugby Podcast. Hit the subscribe button there. Stay locked in. Also, shout out to our friends over at FOCO. FOCO, if you don't know it, is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. It's the best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. So if you go to their website, if you go to the FOCO website, use the code DNVR, you get 10% off your order. So promo code DNVR at FOCO, 10% off your order. That works for all non-presale items. FOCO always has our back for Colorado sports, and they've got yours to get the best gear around by using the link in our description, right in our description. All non-presale items use the promo code DNVR for 10% off.
There you go. Final segment here. So let's get to it. Shams Charania last night announced this one. New change in NBA MBPA collective bargaining agreements starting in this season, 23-24. Teams will be able to begin talks / negotiations with their own free agents 1 day after final game of finals in June, potentially weeks earlier than currently allowed. So here's why this one is interesting. It sounds like a very small thing. One of my critiques of the Jeremy Grant situation years back was Denver presented him with their offer when free agency began, and he signed with Detroit like right away. Now, I don't know if I'm spilling some tea here, guys, but lots of NBA teams, perhaps all, don't give an F about these negotiation rules, and they will talk behind the scenes and make deals. And that's why when the clock strikes midnight on a new season or new free agency, all these deals happen immediately.
DeAndre Jordan. I'm just kidding.
Well, it was fun having Cal on yesterday where he was like, I was in a field in Serbia. Like, wow, how did you negotiate that deal from the field? It's like, wow, it's so wild. Nonetheless,
That doesn't sound ideal.
We're not going to get anybody in trouble here. But with this rule, here's why I think it's important. I really do think there was something to, as much as it sounds like it's easy just to call agents this or that, I think that it's easier for players like a Jeremy Grant to sneak out, meaning they have their plans in place. When one team like, oh, I'm not returning calls, we'll talk when free agency begins. We'll talk when free agencies will go. And by then it's too late. You look at Bruce Brown this year, can opt out of his deal. Denver being able to talk to him one day after the finals, weeks before he can legally talk to any other teams, you might just be able to lock up some of your own free. You might get to wine and dine and tell Bruce, hey, let's not wait for free agency. Like, we got a deal. You're happy here. We're happy.
Bruce, they're going to play you at
any
power
way this-
forward.
Yeah,
They're going to play you at power forward.
How could they
over there.
possibly police this?
Oh, I mean, that's the real question, right? But
It's
nonetheless,
absurd.
But what I'm
Ready,
saying,
set, go.
They're like, you didn't talk to
Pick up your phones, everybody.
You didn't talk to your players, did you? You did? Oh, well, that's not okay. They're like on a plane. They're like, oh, I mean, I'd love to, we'd love to keep you around here.
As much
And
as I
just
think
David Adam Silver just pops out of a.
as much as I think you're right, the formality of being able to say, hey, fly in or whatever it is, hey, let's sit down, everybody, let's do this formally, and maybe get to the point where you really persuade a guy. Remember a couple of years back when you had we locked him inside of a house, and like they had to fly to Dallas and people were driving the streets.
Was it DeAndre?
It was
That was
DeAndre
DeAndre
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yeah. It was DeAndre Jordan going to Dallas, or the
The
Clippers
story
flew
now,
out there.
DeAndre Jordan's like, I got locked out of the house where they were negotiating.
But now there is an opportunity, I think, for Denver, and this is probably how it will play out, is to sit down with Bruce and his agent and say, hey, man, let's just get this done before we get to free agency. And I just think there's a better chance. I mean, a lot of the moves that they've made in the CBA have been moves to try to keep players in one place. And this is just another one. And I honestly think it could make an impact. When do you see it as like, hey, Bruce probably knows what money's out there. He'll know all of that. But are you just more likely to sign on the dotted line when you get a week where you can only make one decision, you can't make the other?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, I think it could give Denver a better chance at retaining him or somebody like him. I don't know if it will make that big of a difference, though, just because in most of these situations, a guy is going to go on the advice of his agent. And the agent will tell him if there's a way better deal out there or if there's not. And like, if Bruce wants to stay here, yeah, there will be an opportunity for him to get that done. But yeah, I don't know if I see it like swinging, a deal for the Nuggets.
What do you think, D-Line?
I mean, I have no idea either. To me, it's absurd, the idea that they're not already talking about this. If there's, I mean, again, I understand the formality. They can be like, they can track their movements and say.
What about this scenario, okay? What about the Nuggets get to meet with Bruce first and say, hey, man, we want to offer you this, but if you don't sign it before free agency begins, we have to go to plan B. Because if you remember, Bruce was signed, I think, on day 3 of free agency.
Right.
There was like a lag period, and maybe the Nuggets go into it and like, hey, maybe you don't sign it this week, but the first hour or the first like 10 minutes, if it's not a yes, then we have to go to our plan B and we're just going to go for another player and we won't have that money for you.
It's not unthinkable that it would have impact. Absolutely. I mean, I'm kind of with Wynn. I mean, who knows? I mean, it to your larger point, it certainly is at least another like tool in the arsenal of a team. Whether or not it actually makes a difference, I don't know. But I do like that. I do like that the NBA is at least making efforts. They have been for years to allow teams, smaller market teams, people that draft talent to be able to try to keep them in as many ways. Like the money is getting to a point where it's going to become impossible because the difference between 400 million and 500 million doesn't really mean that much to somebody. And like once you're rich enough, like they're. I don't know, but I do like that they're at least like trying to tinker to see if there are ways to give the smaller market teams like a little bit of an advantage
Right.
to the teams to who they drafted.
If Jeremy Grant was on, if this rule was in place during the Jeremy Grant era, I really do think that the Nuggets might have had a little bit better of a sense of like, I mean, look, because there's
better of a sense that it wasn't happening.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Is there
yeah,
might have
yeah.
been a little bit more of a
oh boy,
he's not returning the
you
calls.
Don't, you don't have to talk to the team.
But
you
then he's-
I know,
What
but
he's
then
saying
you
is like-
but then you know, like
Dude,
if,
well,
if a
maybe
guy says I'm out of town till free agency, man, we'll talk then. You know, it's not as much of a red flag. Whereas now, if you're like, yeah, but we can talk, and he's like, we'll wait till free
or
agency.
you
Like,
could
that guy's
just
out.
string a team along and bullshit them,
you could,
You
like
could.
which he probably would.
Jeremy Grant did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this hurts. I actually agree with Eric that the reality of the situation is probably not much different than
Right.
it used to be. But the green light to do it from the league can't hurt. And the larger scale effort to make it easier for teams to retain guys, I'm behind it. These moves almost always have unintended consequences. They
Right.
never get it right.
Right.
But the effort, I think, is important.
Look,
Yeah.
if the Nuggets are able to retain Bruce Brown or not, I feel like has everything to do with what happens in the playoffs. Like if the
Really?
Nuggets win a championship, Bruce Brown's gone. Absolutely.
For sure.
If they make a deep run, he's gone. Because that means
Yes.
he's playing really well and
Yes.
teams are going to look at that and be like, we want that guy.
Yes.
That being said, if they flame out in like the first round, maybe he's also gone because it's obvious whatever the Nuggets are doing isn't working.
What's where do they have to go to
The sweet spot,
Yeah,
like
like
losing 7 in the conference finals.
Then we keep him. Okay.
Or I don't know.
That does
How
it.
bad do you want Bruce Brown?
That does it. I will say this. It's corny as it sounds, and you can hit that outro music, Kel. As corny, or do we have some super chats?
Oh, we're done
All right.
already? What a good show.
So I'm telling
What
you,
a treat.
my mind frame over the last like 3 or 4 days, I feel like has really shifted. And some of this is you just get mired in the muck of like, they're not playing hard again. This is the 8th straight game.
Yeah.
They haven't done, they've all looked crappy. Jokic looks sad. My mind frame after obviously today's practice, watching the games last night, and just being reminded of like, oh yeah, there's levels to all of this stuff.
Watching the games last night was big.
It was big. You're just kind of like, oh yeah, we've seen Denver's best, and these are two teams who should be playing their best. And if that's what they have, even if they would just say it was a bad game, yeah, but they have that level of floor in them in a do or
big
die
moment.
in a do or die game. And Denver, like, say what you will, their floor hasn't looked like that in meaningful moments. So I think that that's one where I look at it and I go, Denver's really good, and it's good to remember that. And there is this sense of, well, the Lakers just didn't try, and now they're trying. They're the 10 seed or the 8 seed for a reason, or 7 seed, whatever it is, for a reason. And I just feel good. I feel good about where Denver's at right now.
Yeah,
Me too.
couldn't agree more. Like we were talking about this the whole time. It was very difficult to get through this last month. Like it was a lot of like, none of this matters. We kept saying this over and over. None of this matters except for every day of your life matters. And this sucks. And this sucks to watch. But on the larger scale, this is not a referendum on how good Denver is able to play basketball, unless you can delude yourself like radio stations in this town that can convince themselves that somehow Nikola Jokic is a guy that's going to come out and take 2 shots in a game. Like,
Right.
like if you people that are like doubting Jokic it's the most comical. Like you're not paying attention. You've never been paying attention. Telling on yourself.
Well, some aren't earnest, though. There's a lot of the Jokic hate or the crazy Jokic takes that are like, you're playing a bit here.
has to be.
Yeah.
Has to be. But listen, I'm ready for real Jokic. I mean, there is if a switch doesn't exist for anybody else, it absolutely exists for Nikola Jokic.
Yeah. He can definitely turn it on and up.
Yes, on it up.
Yeah,
All right.
Sideways.
Oh, we got
Go
some
everywhere.
Somebody came in at the buzzer. What do we got?
Didn't choose the Nug Life. Nug Life chose me.
Hell
Super
yeah.
chat.
Hell yeah, baby.
Cool.
Nug Hype, though, also chose you, and that's where we're headed right now.
Let's go.
All right, everybody, that does it for today. We're going to be back again tomorrow. I can't wait for another Nuggets practice. Going to talk to the big fella tomorrow, Nikola Jokic.
Ask him about the MVP.
We should ask you about that. Doesn't mean anything. Do you feel like you stat pad? All right, everybody, hit that like button on the way
Is there
out.
any added pressure?